Good morning and welcome. I'm Rhonda Hooper, President and CEO of Jordan Advertising and the Chamber's Vice Chair of Economic Development. The Greater Oklahoma City Chamber organizes these Friday forums for members who want to learn more about current issues in our region. And if you've lived in this community for a few years, then I'm sure that you have noticed how Oklahoma City's retail scene has really evolved. By the way, if you want to go ahead and start eating your salads, that's cool. More national retailers are taking notice of Oklahoma City's buying power, and local entrepreneurs are creating exciting new concepts and success stories. Today's luncheon will focus on the retail recruiting process, what makes Oklahoma City attractive, and what future development we can expect. But before we discuss that further, I'd like to take a moment to recognize today's series signature event sponsor, Cox Business. So please welcome Ahi Park, Sales Manager, to the stage to say a few words. Let's give Ahi a round of applause.
Thank you, Rhonda. Good afternoon. I'm Ahi Park, a Sales Manager with Cox Business. Cox is proud to once again be the presenting sponsor of today's forum. We at Cox firmly believe in the mission of the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber to create a positive business environment that attracts new business and creates an environment conducive to growth for existing businesses within our city. One of the key ingredients to creating a positive business environment is a strong retail market. We've all seen firsthand the Chamber's commitment to redeveloping our downtown as well as the surrounding neighborhoods, attracting both national and locally owned retailers, understanding that both are critical to the continued growth and development of our city. At Cox Business, we are equally committed to the business community. We offer a wide portfolio of products and services to meet the diverse and ever-increasing telecommunication needs for both large and small business. We're excited to hear from our panel of experts today about our future retail plans for our city. On behalf of myself and nearly 1,200 Cox employees, thank you for being here today, and we look forward to the presentation.
Appreciate those remarks, Ahi. Before we continue, let's recognize our other sponsors. Our series corporate sponsor is Guernsey. Guernsey? Where are you, Guernsey? Are you here? Or are you just... There's Guernsey waving. Awesome. Retail plays a very critical role in Oklahoma City's ability to provide vital research services to its residents, and for that reason, the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber and the City of Oklahoma City work to increase the variety and retail options in Oklahoma City. When we increase the strength and number of our retailers, we're increasing the amount of funds that benefit the city's police, fire, and park departments, not to mention its street maintenance, code enforcement, the Oklahoma City Zoo, yes, the animals benefit from these, and of course the voter-approved percentage of our sales tax dollars that we're investing in MAP's 3 projects. Oklahoma City is also growing at an incredible pace. And as the nation's 3rd largest city in land area, an increase in retail is essential to providing for our very growing community and maintaining its existing infrastructure. You always have to get ahead of infrastructure, otherwise you smother your advancement. So in order to meet that need, the Chamber recently launched a website that will brand Oklahoma City as a premier destination for retailers, marketing Oklahoma City's low cost of living, high per capita income levels, and ease of doing businesses as qualities that will make both national and local retailers successful. The website, which can be viewed at www.okcretail.com, that's easy to remember, okcretail.com, offers potential developers a snapshot of Oklahoma City's retail target areas, data, and demographics for some of Oklahoma City's districts, an integrated property search feature, and success stories from Oklahoma City's healthy retail sector. So please go to that website because that's going to give you a lot of intelligence and a lot of opportunity. As we talk more about Oklahoma City's retail growth and development during today's event, please feel free to visit the website. I know you're already, all you people are out there with your iPhones and your Smart 6s and your big old tablets, whatever. You can see how we're branding Oklahoma City as a premier place for retail expansion. So please enjoy your lunch, and we'll introduce our speakers shortly in just a few minutes. So enjoy each other's company. Be back in a little bit. Introduce our speakers. First up is Jim Clark. Jim Clark is chairman of BC Clark Incorporated, a family-owned retail jewelry firm started in 1892. But you all knew that because you knew the jingle, right? Okay. Jim is a graduate of the University of Oklahoma, and following his schooling, he spent 2 years in the Army. He then went on to earn an MBA degree from the Graduate School of Business at New York University. He was recently admitted to the National Jeweler Retailer Hall of Fame and the Oklahoma City Public Schools Wall of Fame. He currently serves on the Board of Trustees of the Oklahoma City Community Foundation, the Oklahoma City Community Board of Bank First, and the Board of the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber. So do people get extra points if they can sing the jingle?
I'm sorry, what?
Never mind. That was a test. Okay. Our next panelist, Tammy Fate, Manager of Retail Development and Recruitment of the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber. Her previous experience includes retail development for the City of Tulsa and Broken Arrow Economic Development Corporation. In addition, Tammy has been a loan officer specializing in SBA 504 lending and business development. And prior to moving to Oklahoma City, in addition to working at the City of Tulsa, Tammy was a college instructor teaching marketing and management classes at Northeastern State University. And I understand you're quite the runner as well, right? All right, please welcome Tammy. I teasingly said I was going to pass him over and not introduce him, but I guess I better. Next is Jim Parrack. Jim joined Price Edwards & Company in 2007 and heads the firm's retail division. The division encompasses management and brokerage activities for over 50 shopping centers in Oklahoma City, or in Oklahoma and North Texas. Parrack is actively involved in overseeing all management and leasing efforts of the firm's retail building portfolio to ensure asset protection and enhancement of client-owned properties. Jim is an active member and participant in Chain Link's Retail Advisors, a national retail leasing and networking organization. In addition, Jim has extensive experience acting as receiver for distressed properties of all product types. Please welcome Jim. Our final panelist is Jessica Stetler. You'll get to know Jessica really well. Jessica has been with Von Maur since January 2011. She started with the company after graduating with her bachelor's degree from Western Michigan University, completing a degree in textile and apparel studies. Since starting with Von Maur, she has had the opportunity to live in 4 different states and work at 5 different store locations across the Midwest. But you know what, Jessica, we feel that you'll like Oklahoma City better than any of those places you've ever lived. Please welcome Jessica Stetler. Okay, so you better behave or I'll ask you difficult questions. Okay, so I will come up and join you now. Are we turned on? No, we are? Okay. All right. Jim, you're first up. So be prepared. You're on. I might change up the question. I'll be nice to you, and for this, Jim, I won't. My first question, Jim, BC Clark operates stores in 3 distinct areas of Oklahoma City. Do you see a difference in the retail environments of these 3 locations? And if so, what are the major differences?
Okay, well, we do have 3 locations. I'll tell you where they are. One is our downtown location, which is our headquarter, kind of our flagship store. The other is at Penn Square Mall, and that store has an outside entrance, which is a little unique for Penn Square. And then our third store is at what used to be called North Park Mall and is now called the Shops at North Park. And by the way, we are just completing a brand new store there that will also have an outside entrance and that will be having its grand opening the day after Thanksgiving, 3 weeks away.
That's fast.
So, in answer to your question, we do see some differences between our clientele at each of the stores. One of the things that's unique about us as a multi-store operation is that our stores each have their own individual personality. They have very strong managers in place. They have a very strong staff that has long-time history with us, and they've developed their own personality as an individual store. We also do something that's a little unique. Most people in our business that have multi-store operations do centralized buying and centralized merchandising. We do not do that. The only thing we buy centrally are our loose diamonds. Everything else, our managers and their buyers buy for their stores. So they've been able to develop their own individual identity and personality. We're not cookie cutters of one another. And we do find that we tend to have a little bit different demographic at each of the stores. And the interesting thing is that the demographics change all the time as retailing changes. You know, we have to be on top of the game all the time because things don't always stay the same. Our downtown store, for example, that used to have the oldest clientele, now we are beginning to realize has the youngest clientele with a real hip, urban, professional customer base that's coming in now. So we have to learn to, and we've learned to adapt to that. I'm fortunate that I have my sons, who are the fourth generation in our family business, now running the business. They are literally running it. My son Coleman is the president. My other son Mitchell is the executive vice president and director of marketing. They're very tech savvy, which is mighty helpful to me, and so they understand that the demographics are changing constantly, and we're having to merchandise each of our stores differently and in a way that is appropriate. Yet you still find most of the same brands at all of our stores. But we find the retailing environment very exciting right now. I can't remember a time more exciting than Oklahoma City. I've been in the retail business for 48 years. I've been in the downtown location for 48 years. And I have never seen a more exciting time in downtown Oklahoma City, and Oklahoma City in general, for all three of our stores than right now.
That's awesome. I tell you, I love the concept that you have different personalities for each of those locations. That's amazing. So how are you gearing up for the shops at North Park? What kind of personality and imagery are you going to have?
Well, you're going to have to go and see. It's going to be...
Is that a commercial?
It's going to be a beautiful store. We are making a very significant investment out there, and if you drive down May Avenue now, you'll see the storefront. The storefront has just gone up in the last few weeks, and it's going to be state of the art. Our other two stores are going to have to make a step up to catch up now as far as the physical facility goes. It's going to be very, very nice, and we're very excited about it.
That's awesome. May I ask you another question?
Mm-hmm.
Your store has always been a proponent of a healthy downtown, Oklahoma City. Why do you think a healthy downtown is so important, and how do retail establishments play a role in strengthening downtown?
Well, I think retail businesses help provide an identity to downtown and a personality, if I can use that terminology again. When I think back on my career, thinking back particularly 20 and 30 years ago, if you tried to visualize in your head Oklahoma City, what Oklahoma City was, you couldn't come up with an image. There wasn't anything to really conjure up into your mind. Back then we had nothing but urban sprawl, and everything was going away from downtown out into the suburbs. And now all of a sudden we've got personality. The city has a heartbeat. It has iconic images that come to your mind. I mean, when I think of Oklahoma City now, I think of Devon Tower, I think of the Thunder, and I think of the Myriad Gardens, and I think of Bricktown and the Canal, and I think of the Boathouse District and all of the other districts that are coming online now around downtown Oklahoma City. And suddenly, Oklahoma City, to me, has a great image and a great personality, and retail helps with that. But admittedly, there's very little retail in downtown Oklahoma City. That will come. It's coming. It's never going to be what it was 40 years ago. Most cities won't be that kind of way because there's pockets of retail all over the city. Our business has never been better in downtown Oklahoma City, and I'll tell you this: in my 48 years, there was never one single year that we ever considered moving away from downtown Oklahoma City. We always had a good business in downtown. And now it's better than ever. We had a record year at all 3 of our locations this last year, best year ever in our history. So things are good in Oklahoma City, and things are good in downtown Oklahoma City. So we would love to see more retailers down there with us. That would create some synergy for us as well.
So that downtown location was
Right.
critical. I mean, you have to be seen. It's a great spot.
Thank you. Yeah, we grabbed that corner location on Park Avenue and Broadway when we realized that the Skirvin Hotel was going to get redone. That was about 8 years ago. And we had always been next door to that location. And we grabbed the corner because it became available, built out a whole new store. And suddenly we had people coming in that work downtown wanting to know when we built the store downtown. They're glad that we finally put a store downtown, and we'd been downtown for 85 years.
You were a newcomer.
And they suddenly discovered us. So location is important.
That's awesome. Well, Jim, I know the audience is going to have some more questions for you in a minute, so be thinking of what you want to ask. Maybe there's a prize. Just kidding. Thank you, Jim. All right, my next question is for Tammy. Let's talk a little bit more about the big picture. Why does the recruitment of retail play such an important role to the health of our city?
Right. I think it just enhances the quality of life. I get phone calls weekly of different residents saying, when are we going to get this type of store? When are we going to get this? So I think the citizens of Oklahoma City are eager for more shopping options and just having that variety. So Oklahoma City being so big, 620 plus square miles, there's a lot of room for retail. I mean, there's a variety of options that are available. We have all these unique districts, and I think there's something for everybody in Oklahoma City, from a national standpoint, from regional players to local. So making sure that we have that flavor there. And then I think most importantly, you touched on it earlier when you did your introduction, is talking about how important sales tax is to every municipality. And that's what really creates the funding that allows for the beautiful parks and the recreation and police and fire, public safety. So with all the sales tax collection, that really goes back to generate into the amenities for residents here. So,
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I'll address sales tax in a minute. When recruiting new retail to Oklahoma City, what type of retailers are the number one focus? And what do those retailers look at when they are expanding into new communities?
well, I think destination retailers is the thing that we go after, and we're eager to try to attract the destination retailers new to market, but also working a lot with your local small businesses that are currently in the market, because that really creates that experience in those charming and characteristic places that people remember when they leave a particular community. So when you say what things remind you of Oklahoma City, I think it's a good blend of having places like Maur and having your national tenants, but also having those local businesses as well to really kind of blend together. So, but in terms of what those retailers are looking for, it's a variety of things, from what the density is, so being able to provide what daytime population is, what the educational attainment is, visibility, major employers. And luckily, we have a pretty robust resource department at the Chamber that is allowed to really pull those resources together and help sell Oklahoma City and tell the success of what's happened here.
At one point, we heard that one of the negatives was the fact that we were spread out so far and wide over, is it 649 square miles, I think? But bottom line, you've addressed it, and how are you addressing it now and getting the attention of those retailers?
I think being able to talk about traffic flow and how people get around here and where they live, where they work at, and being able to show your drive times are a little bit larger, drawing specific polygons that pull in the different demographics. And we do a lot of driving tours. So I think once you get somebody to the market and you can give them a driving tour and show them Oklahoma City, that it sells itself, but it's trying to get that initial contact and get somebody on the ground. And depending on what they're looking for, it could be a revitalization area, it could be somebody who's new to market from a national tenant, but really just trying to tell the story and get them here.
What's the key thing you hear when you take them on that driving tour? What's the resounding theme that you hear back from them?
I think it's really a lot of the growth that's happening. I think when you have a healthy core, it it shows and reflects throughout the entire community. And I think with what you have that's going on downtown, with the residential housing that's occurring, and just there's all different pockets of Oklahoma City that are thriving. So it's not just one area. It's all throughout the city that you can look and see that there's something that's happening. So I think that sells itself pretty well.
Okay. Thank you, Tammy. Jim. In your experience, what types of real estate are most in demand for retailers? How is Oklahoma City meeting that demand?
Thanks. Retail is all about population density and incomes, and so retailers follow people. And I think that, everybody understands that. The trend kind of in recent years, especially for national retailers, has been that they like to be along interstates. Just as a simple example, Hobby Lobby used to have a store at 89th and Southwestern, and they moved it to 74th and I-240 so they could be on an interstate. And a lot of those national retailers like to do that. Now, and that's one of the reasons that Maur has had such success, is they have had a bunch of available land along an interstate that those big national retailers could move to. Oklahoma City, one of the benefits of it is that we have lots of land. We have that 649 square miles. And so we have the ability to provide the locations that people want, that retailers want. Right now, if you look at our centers that are newer and well located, we really don't have any space. We have about a 3% vacancy in those types of centers. And so we're out of space. The retailers that have come to town the last few years, like Dick's, Sporting Goods, LA Fitness, have had to build their own stores because of that. And so we really need more product. The market is starting to address that now. A couple of weeks ago was the groundbreaking for Chisholm Creek, which is at Memorial and Western. And so that's going on. There's a couple of developers that are probably close to announcing new, larger retail deals, because for those regional, national players that want to be here that Tammy's helping recruit, there's really no place for them to go, and so we need that space. There's also some existing centers like Westgate Marketplace at I-40 and MacArthur that is going to expand to the south side of I-40. And so over time, we have the places. That's where retailers want to be, and the market's addressing it.
I've seen a lot of reskinning of existing strip centers to breathe new life into those. Is that kind of a trend, or?
I think that's another function of the fact that the retail market is pretty strong right now. We have, if you look at our overall market, we have a vacancy in Oklahoma City of about 8%, a little over 8%, which is good. But it's not even. So in those newer centers, they're full. But if you look in some areas of the market, like eastern Oklahoma County, some of the Bethany, War Acres area, there's some older centers that are kind of tired. Maybe they're configured wrong for what retailers like now. The space sizes are wrong. And so the market is, because we have demand right now, is addressing some of those. But more of that needs to be done.
Gotcha. Well, Jim, in your opinion, what do you think Oklahoma City needs to do now to prepare for the real estate demands for retailers for the next 10 to 20 years?
I have to tell you, I love answering questions about what happens 10 or 20 years from now.
You'll still
because
be
I
involved.
can pretty much say anything I want.
Wait, Jim the futurist, right?
Yes, exactly. I actually sat in a meeting once, probably 30 years ago, where a guy, a futurist, talked, and he did a 400-year plan for Coca-Cola. And I'm like going, wow, I want that job.
Who's going to hold him accountable?
400-year plan for Oklahoma City. So, there's a couple of things in thinking about that. One of the things that I think is important for our market in general is we need to get a mainstream grocer here. And that's not to say anything about the ones that are already here, the local ones that are here. But Walmart dominates our grocery market. They take up about 65% of our grocery market. Buy for Less, Crest have whittled into that a little bit. And what does Walmart do? Well, they've this past year and upcoming year, they're going to open 2 new super centers and 4 new neighborhood markets. And so they're protecting their turf. But if we had someone like Kroger's or H-E-B, we don't have a lot of neighborhood grocery anchored centers. And that's important, I think, to a market because especially local tenants thrive on the vitality and the traffic that come from those grocers. And because Walmart owns most of their property and it doesn't anchor a center in most cases, we don't have some of that to support some of our local tenants. And so I think that's a piece that needs to happen. One of the things that you just talked about needs to happen, which is those neighborhood centers that are old, may be facing the wrong way, space configured wrong. We either need to tear some of those down or reskin them. Some of that's starting to happen, and whether that's a combination of public-private partnerships or the private market takes care of it, that needs to happen. And then, the other thing I think, which Tammy referenced and we're doing a better job of, is we need to, as a industry, do a better job of pitching Oklahoma City because we're so spread out. All these retailers have models that they use to decide where to locate around the country. And whether it's demographics or psychographics or drive times or whatever the heck it is, it's hard to do their models in Oklahoma City and have as good a picture sometimes as other cities, that even though we have better incomes and they're overall in a better population, we're so spread out you can't set their model in and have it give you that good result that you want. And so we need to figure out a way to work with the retailers and better paint that picture.
Good point. Thanks, Jim. Okay, Jessica, it's your turn. Well, and if you haven't already been, Von Maur just opened, had grand opening, 3 weeks ago? Or
It
is
was
it
the 18th.
18th, oh my gosh, that was just around. You probably,
It just happened.
It has. It definitely just happened. But what initially drew this company to our market, and what value does Oklahoma City provide for the Von Maur portfolio? And what is the portfolio right now?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing that we look at, and the biggest thing we look at, is the area that is the potential for us, is their opportunity. And so I think when we look at Oklahoma City, there's a lot of opportunity for all the reasons both Jim and Tammy have stated. The income level here, the fact that there's a lot of growth. So we definitely saw there was a lot of opportunity. And I think the other big factor for us, in addition to those things, was the lack of other high-end retailers. So we really saw that, there's that opportunity for us to come in and fill that void for the marketplace. And I think, what was the second part of your question?
Oh, just basically, what value do you think we provide to your portfolio?
Yeah.
And how many stores are in the current portfolio?
This was our 30th store that we
30th?
opened.
Wow.
Yep, so we have 30 stores now, and I think there's a lot of value in the fact that, again, that lack of high-end retailer, that we're able to come in and fill that void. And then with our growth and our expansion goals, being able to enter a new market really fit that for us and helps us achieve that.
And this is your 4th location that you've worked for with Von Maur, correct? Or 5th?
No, I don't know. Yeah, it's my 5th location that I've worked for, yeah.
What has been your biggest surprise coming here thus far? I know it's only been a few weeks.
Yeah, it's just, and we were hoping that it would be very busy and that people would be out shopping, but we've been surprised at how busy it stayed. But that's a good surprise, so we're happy about that.
It was those roses and chocolates you gave out on that opening weekend, wasn't it?
Yeah, it must have been it. So,
well, that's excellent. All right. How would you describe the ease of opening a major retail establishment in Oklahoma City is, and how did the process compare with other cities that you've worked with, since you've become quite the expert in new locations?
So I think Oklahoma City is a great city to go into business-wise. There's the low tax that obviously is very inviting. But I think there's 2 things that we look at when we're opening up a new store, and that is the perspective of employment practices, and then there's the operational standpoint. And so I think it was very easy when it comes to employment practices. Our employment practices were very consistent with what Oklahoma City already required. And so that was very easy transition for us. They kind of just meshed well together. From an operational standpoint, it was a little bit different. Not that it was bad, just different from what we're used to. We found that from what our normal processes are, we did have to make some modifications. Our goal is to really go into a new market, vet out all the requirements that the city has, so that ideally what we would do is have all of that ahead of time so that we can layer that into the architectural piece of it. And what we found is that a lot of that was shared with us when we were getting really close to completion. And so what we had to do is we had to make some very last minute changes, and we were able to kind of navigate our way through that. Luckily, a lot of the subcontractors that we used were local, and so they were very familiar with those requirements, and they were able to successfully get us through that and be able to open on time. So I think every market has its nuances that we kind of have to figure our way through. And so overall, I think the opening of a new store here was very successful and very smooth.
I tell you, I know I appreciated not only the fact that you went in and gutted the interior, but you made the outside look more like a destination, and that was awesome because the mall is a little, it's been tired on the outside, but, it really brought new life. But I was so impressed on that Saturday how all of your employees were so on track, and basically, I mean, how do you drill down customer service?
Those poor people, that's all they hear from me all the time is about customer service. And, the nice part when you open a brand new store that existing stores do not get is the fact that depending on when they start, they have 2 months of training where all we're doing is talking about what Von Maur's expectation is, because the hard part is they've never been inside of Von Maur. They don't know what our standard is for service, and so we just constantly train them and do role plays and all of these different things. So they had 2 months of that with me that they had to go through.
Well, you did a good job.
Thanks.
All right, I do have a question for all y'all. Everybody said, the internet sales and so on, and everybody's practices on a day-to-day basis. That's going to affect our overall sales tax, which obviously goes back into hurting our infrastructure and so on. Anybody want to chime in on your perspective of what the internet has done to your sales or any impact? Jim, you look like you're right on.
I'll jump in on that. Actually, the internet, our perception up to this point is that it has helped us much more than it's hurt us up to this point. And partly because we've embraced it, and we've done what we need to do to be a part of it, and through whether it's social media or other things, our website and otherwise, what we find is our customers now come in and they already have an idea. If they're looking for an engagement ring, for example, they already have an idea what they're looking for. They've either visited our website or they've been on the web and they've visited other websites. They literally come in with a picture, and usually we have a ring that matches that picture almost every time. And so it's helped us far more than it's hurt us. And our own people have learned that. They have no fear of the internet like they did initially when it first kind of came on the scene for us. And the way we sell is quite different now. And we do a lot of selling from our cell phones, with text messages, emails, sending images to our customers. All of those things have helped us immensely. With our customers that used to be good customers here in Oklahoma and maybe relocated to another state, we have a much better connection with them now to continue that relationship. And it's through the internet and through emails and texting and things like that. So technology has helped us up to this point. We have no real fear of it at all. The biggest issue initially was pricing on certain things like diamonds, loose diamonds. But we've learned how to reinvent what we do and compete, and we have adjusted our pricing on loose diamonds, and we're very competitive with the internet now, and our customers realize that. With our branded merchandise, we don't have much competition on the internet. The true branded lines that we have don't allow themselves to be sold on the internet, not by anybody that's an authorized dealer. So far, it's good. It's great for us.
So all of this is allowed access, but you haven't deviated from the trust inherent in your brand, right? Because
True.
everybody knows what they're going to get from you.
True.
And
I mean, we have to still adhere to the principles that our founder based our business on, and that's trustworthiness and honesty and all of those good things. Yet we're constantly reinventing what we do, and again, that's why it's so helpful to have that next generation in the family business that thinks from a little bit different perspective and has no problems embracing what we need to embrace to go forward.
excellent. Anybody else?
Well,
Oh,
go
Jim.
ahead, Tammy.
I was just saying, I feel like the customers are more educated when they come into the store. They know what they're looking for. They know about if they're buying some type of fabric or, jewelry or whatever it is, they have a better understanding of what they're looking for. And I feel like that it's allowed them to really look for that experience. And if you look at some of the retailers that are opening up, such as Topgolf and Main Event and the Blue Garden and places like that, it's really creating that experience. So that's when customer service, I think, becomes even more crucial, because you can order things online, but people are craving that experience. It's like that connection. And I think Von Maur has done a good job of that with the music and some of the things that they have at their store really allows people to come in there and have that experience that they wouldn't get just by making a click online.
Jim.
Well, what I was going to say is I think it's a mistake to look at it as one or the other. Your comments kind of reflect that. Retail is the most creative yet destructive form of real estate that there is. In a good year across the country, 4,500 stores go out of business. In a bad year, 6,500 stores go out of business. And if you look at the history of retailing, retailers try everything they can, as Jessica and Jim have kind of referenced, to meet customer expectations. And so there's been door-to-door salesmen, there's been catalog sales, there's been full service, there's been no service, there's been warehouses, there's been kiosks, there's been serve yourself. Retail will do whatever they need to do to reach the customers in a way customers want to be reached. And so when you take that to the internet, you look at what people are doing. Like Jim's salespeople are using the internet to keep in touch with customers and to fill orders and make them happier. You look at Walmart and Staples as two examples. They're using their existing stores as warehouses to ship stuff bought over the internet to people. Half the stuff you pick up, you buy at Walmart over the internet, you have to walk through their store to the back of the store to pick up, so you buy something else in the store while you're there. There's stores around the country that are opening kiosks within their stores, so if they don't have a size or a color that you want, you can go order it online. And so all those things are going to blur the line between internet sales and brick and mortar sales. And so it's going to change, but at the end of the day, there's still going to be stores, and internet's going to be an integrated part of it.
There you go. Jessica, you have your point?
Yeah. So I think our experience is similar to what Jim's is, and that is people come in for an experience. And so I think our online presence enhances the customer's experience. Again, I think they come in more educated. They kind of have an idea of what they're already looking for. A lot of times they'll pull out their phone and say, hey, this is what I saw online. Can you find my size? So it makes it a lot easier for the associates sometimes. But I think ultimately the customer at Von Maur, they come in for an experience, not just because they need to get whatever it is they need to come in and get. And then I think the other part of it too is, a lot of people have to move now for different things, and they may not move to an area where there's a Von Maur since there's only 30 of them. And so now they're able to take advantage of the services that we offer in the stores. We offer the free shipping and the free gift wrap and the interest-free charge card all online. And so they're able to move and still take advantage of those services and still be able to shop with Von Maur. So.
Well, the shopping experience is definitely textural. It's definitely visual. It smells. All of those go into the factor, and you can't get that sitting behind your desktop. So, all right, I'd like to open it up to questions from the audience. And Tori is walking around with a microphone, and please, our panelists are very desiring of your questions. Maybe. I'm teasing. Okay, yes.
When Oklahoma City is competing for, major retailers to come here, what cities do we lose to, and what do they have that we don't have?
I think sometimes that comes down to incentives. So Oklahoma City is so large in landmass that I think it is so spread out. It sometimes takes a little longer for people to understand where the consumer's coming from, where they're shopping, and really kind of embracing what their travel patterns are. In terms of who we lose out to, I think it really depends on who the retailer is. I think a lot of retailers in the Dallas market are really starting to look at Oklahoma City. I've heard in many instances that we're an arm of Dallas, so in some ways I think that is good for us because there's so many hot retailers in that area that are looking at Oklahoma City now.
I would probably also say that it's not necessarily we lose out to anybody. Lots of times it's a decision by the retailer. Do we open a store there or not? Not do we open one there or Tulsa or Wichita or whatever. So it's more just do they want to be here? And I would say, I'll disagree with Tammy just a little bit. I think incentives given to retailers play a role, but retailers make their money on sales. And you can never make up what they lose. If their sales are not good, you can never make that up with an incentive. And so if they think their sales are going to be good, they're going to come no matter what.
Other questions? Reed.
What are your feelings about taxing on the internet, sales tax?
What are your feelings about the sales tax on the internet, the potential of that? Jim?
Having a sales tax on the
I'm
internet.
a supporter. There's a bill in Congress right now, and I forget the name of it. What? The Marketplace Fairness Act. I think internet sales should be taxed. I think it's a levels the playing field because even I know the argument against that is they're not using the local facilities, but they are. They're driving over our roads to deliver the packages. It needs to happen because I think it puts the local retailers at a disadvantage. So.
And the other thing that's grossly unfair about it is that it cheats our state and our communities of sales tax that they should be entitled to. So it is a big issue, and it should be corrected.
And as everybody here knows, Oklahoma is an odd state in a number of ways, as you're finding out, Jessica. Odd in a very good way.
Okay, thank you, Jim, for correcting that.
But our local governments, as most people in this room know, are funded primarily by sales tax. Hardly any other state does that. And so retail plays an added importance, and this issue plays an added importance in Oklahoma because that's where our local governments get a bunch of their funding.
I think you had a question over here.
When you talked about grocery stores, the lack of some of maybe the bigger brands, I know lately we've had several new stores and it seemed like shoppers were really, I know I was, really excited and relieved to have other options other than Walmart. Are there, you said we need more and I agree, what are the barriers preventing us from getting those? Are we attractive to those stores that we don't have?
I think we are attractive to the stores that we don't have. Kroger's used to be in this market, left a while back. I think they would come back. They will come back at some point in time. You know, H-E-B will probably sneak up from Texas. I don't expect them anytime soon, but sooner or later they'll be here. They're both great operators. People would love their stores. The biggest obstacle to getting them here is Walmart. Walmart has such a deep penetration in our grocery market that for a grocer to come into town like that, they don't want to come in and open 1 or 2 stores. They want to come in and open 10 stores or 20 stores. And it's just hard for them to make their numbers work. You know, if you look at national grocer sales, they're actually declining a little bit on a per square foot basis. So all these grocers are fighting for the same market share. And so it just makes the numbers harder to work. So I think eventually it'll happen. But it's going to take a while, and I'm counteracting my own. We may end up giving some incentives to somebody to make it happen. So don't believe anything I say.
I was going to say, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. Yes.
How much are you recruiting retail versus retail coming to you?
I would say it's a little bit of both. It just depends on who the type of retailer it is. From a destination standpoint, I think that we're trying to go out there and tell that success story. But then for a lot of different restaurants that are currently not in our market, then they are really looking at Oklahoma City, seeing the growth and seeing the potential here. And with all the major headquarters that we have here, I think that kind of gives us a little bit of a leverage when people look at Oklahoma City. So it's probably a very mixed. It varies from week to week. So one week it could be me calling on others, and the rest of the time it could be them in the market saying, I'm here, I want to do a tour, show me Oklahoma City, show me the hot spots. So
to add to that, and please raise your hand if you have a question, ICSC is a big trade show annually, and what has happened over the last few years in terms of the demand for people coming to Oklahoma City's booth because we are now talked about?
Right. ICSC is the International Council of Shopping Centers, and they have a variety of trade shows throughout the year. And Oklahoma City has always had a huge presence at the Las Vegas show, and thanks to Cynthia Reed and her marketing team of putting that together. This year we're going to be featured in New York at the National ICSC event there as well. Next week, I'll be in Texas for the ICSC event along with Jim and many brokers here in Oklahoma City. So we're constantly out there telling that story and trying to recruit people in. But our booth has been kind of a walking billboard. So people come up to us and ask about the Thunder. They'll talk about the rowing facilities. They'll talk about just a variety of things. So it kind of puts us on the map. So it's become a topic for people to kind of swing by and see what's happening. And they love to talk Thunder, though. So I have to admit, when I moved here, I had to get brushed up on all the players and stats because that was very much a demand. So
there you go. Yes.
Hi. Can you talk a little bit about national retail in Oklahoma City versus local retail in Oklahoma City and what those tax dollars look like for Oklahoma City? Basically, a local store versus a national store. If I'm spending $15 on a Thunder shirt at Target and $15 at Blue 7 on the same shirt, what amount of money stays here versus local versus national?
I'm not sure I have the right answer for that. I think it's pretty diverse, though. It depends on who the shopper is. I mean, with all the different districts that we have with Uptown, 23rd, and Paseo District, and Downtown, I think from a tourism standpoint, we get people that come in the chamber all the time asking for where do they get that local unique little items, and if they're looking for Thunder stuff or whatever it might be. I think a lot of times people want to visit those areas that have that experience. So it really depends on who the retailer is. I don't have a specific breakdown of how much stays here, who doesn't. Jim might, I'm not sure, but
I would just say, and I don't have the specific breakdown either, but for the retail market to be healthy, you need both. I mean, you need the national retailers because they bring certain things to the market that you're not going to get from local people, and they can do such a high volume of business that it's helpful, and they'll sell things at prices that you're not going to get from local tenants. But, you need that local tenant that more of their money, more of their money stays in the market. They usually provide a different brand of service. Jim's store is the perfect example of a local store that you know exactly what you're going to get and the quality, and they're a fixture here because of that continued quality that they've been able to sell for how many years? 123 years. And so to be healthy, you need both. And that's kind of back to my comment of, and why we need some of those neighborhood anchored centers is those really do help local tenants, and we just don't have enough of them.
What other questions?
To echo with that, what Jim had said too before we move on, I think a lot of times when somebody sees where a specific national tenant is, for example, like Starbucks, they might go to that specific area, and if it's in a very unique district, then they will continue to shop and go to some of the local places. So sometimes having that national tenant that somebody is familiar with, especially if they're traveling from out of town, then they're going to pull up on their GPS, where do I shop that's convenient to what I'm used to, and then when they get there, they kind of, look at the options that are around them. So
it's almost a hub and spoke kind of strategy.
Right.
I have a question for Jessica. All the ladies here at my table love your shoes, and so we were just wondering, did you get those at Von Maur?
I did. They were in the
Awesome.
sale room.
How much were they?
Yes, exactly. Very cute. Thank you. I thought that was an important question, at least for me.
Okay, guys.
Yeah, I was impressed that you did have a clearance room when you first opened. I was like, wow, how cool is that?
Yeah, we get it all transferred in from other stores so that there's still sale merchandise for everyone. Yeah.
Cool. Speaking to borrow from Jim's point, will each one of your 30 locations, do they have sort of a little bit of different skewing on some of their apparel or clothing or whatever to adapt to the marketplace?
Yeah, so all of the buying is done out of our corporate office in Iowa, but what those buyers are able to do is they do go in and look at each marketplace and figure out different things like sporting teams. They'll buy specific for that, specific for colleges.
More orange.
I know there's a lot of maroon, isn't there? So they can do that.
Crimson.
The other thing is that that they're able to do is depending on some areas. I'll use Atlanta for an example. They don't need as much winter apparel as our northern stores do, and so they're able to either transfer those out earlier, mark them down earlier, not send as much in the beginning. So they're able to make those modifications per store and per area. So.
I have another question. You want to know about her skirt now?
No. Okay. I am curious, where is Von Maur's nearest distribution center?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Where is you guys' nearest distribution center?
Oh, all of our distribution is done out of one center, and that's in Davenport, Iowa.
Interesting.
That's where the family is from, is Davenport, right?
Yep, so they're from there. Our e-commerce, our corporate office, and our distribution are all in the same area.
Are you from Davenport originally? Or you got a Michigan accent?
I'm
don't
from
you?
Michigan, yep.
All right, cool. What other questions? Now's your time. How about cut and clarity on that diamond, right? Maybe, any questions that weren't asked that you're just dying to answer? Okay, then let me...
Can I ask Jim a question?
Well, maybe.
How's the jewelry? I mean, in that 100, you haven't been there the whole time, have you? No, in the 100?
Only 4 years.
Okay. In the 100 years, how's the jewelry business changed over that time? And you've talked a little bit about it recently with the internet, but just what's the difference that you've seen over your lifetime in the jewelry business?
Well, it's changed considerably, like any industry has, in many respects. Actually, Megan Mullally sang our jingle on The Tonight Show one night about 7 or 8 years ago, and they asked her what kind of merchandise we sold back in 1892. She said she sang the jingle, which talks about 1892, and she said, well, they sold barbed wire necklaces and cow patties hanging on barbed wire necklaces. Well, it really wasn't quite like that, but it was quite different when we first started our business. We've seen quite a change in branded merchandise. Now we carry, years ago we had no brands at all other than a few watches. Now we have a lot of designer brands that are great lines that are so beautifully made and beautifully done. And so that's a huge, huge part of our business. Our business has been upgraded over the years as well. So we're a much higher end store today than we were 50, 60 years ago. And people's tastes change. Their tastes in watches and their tastes in design and looks change constantly. And again, different stores of our three have different kinds of clientele that are looking for a different kind of thing than the other clientele at one of our other stores. So we constantly have to stay on top of it. Our margins are lower than they used to be, I can tell you that. And, so we've had to learn to be much more lean in the way we operate and competitive. And that's one thing we've been able to accomplish. So, we've not only carried the very high-end merchandise, but we stay competitive with with the competitors, whether it's online or otherwise.
Excellent. Well, I believe we have one more question.
Can you say something in regards to liquor stores or not liquor stores, but liquor laws and grocery stores coming to town?
We don't have enough time in this session.
I can answer that. I think you're starting to see that a lot of the grocery stores are starting to come on board now. I mean, for example, Costco announced that they're going to be in the Tulsa area, and they're looking at Oklahoma City as well. Stores like Trader Joe's have really kind of started looking around as well. So I think people realize that there is a demand for groceries and for their product here, regardless of what our liquor laws are. So I know that that's been a big barrier, and sometimes people will still use that as kind of a cop-out to say, sorry, we're not coming there. But now I think you're starting to see more competition, and you're starting to see people kind of change that pattern.
And I would say the flip side of that is that ultimately those laws will change and allow liquor sales in grocery stores. It's not going to happen this year, and it may not happen next year, but sometime in the next 5 years, it probably will.
Okay, I think there is one final question.
Hi, this is for Mr. Clark. Being where your jewelry stores are, is there certain retail stores or concepts that you would like to see near your locations that you think you could benefit from?
Asking about what we would like to have stores next
Other
to
retailers
us. Yeah.
next to your
yes,
store.
Certainly we would like anything that would be compatible with us. So anything that would tend to cater to the same clientele that we do. You know, there's great strength in numbers that way, where you can have cross shopping back and forth, and so we look for that. We have some great neighbors at Penn Square, and we're hoping to have some additional new members at our North Park location. We think what we're doing there is going to help attract some people to that center, and we hope that will be the result. But sure, fine ladies' clothing store, fine men's clothing store, a furrier. We have a furrier right across the hall from us at the North Park location, and it creates some great synergy when you've got compatible businesses next to you. We feed on each other, and we help each other a lot.
Okay, well, I tell you, this has been, I've thoroughly enjoyed this. Of course, retail is my middle name, but I really appreciate all the discussion. And did y'all enjoy today's session? Yes. You even enjoyed Jim Parrack's comments. Okay, cool. Hey, I'm teasing.
Better than a sharp stick in the eye.
That's true. That's true. But again, thank you to our signature sponsor, Cox Business. AHE, appreciate it. And we hope you'll join us for Wednesday, November 19th for the State of the Economy banquet at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum. Dr. Lawrence Shimmering? Close enough. I will get that down before then. Okay. A globally recognized economic consultant will be joined by a panel of local economists to give attention and key insights into what's going on a national level, international, and then as it relates to Oklahoma City. So please come. For more information, visit the Chamber's website at www.okcchamber.com. Thank you so much. And we got you out just a hair early because according to Jim's watch, we are ahead of schedule, aren't we? All right. Thank y'all very much. Good night. Good night. Good night.